Hi everyone, happy Fat Tuesday, the last day in February. Can't believe it's going to be March. Welcome into IUP's very own sports television show, The Big Hit. I'm your host, Sarah Moltz, for the evening, and we have a lot to talk about, so it's going to be a great show today. I'm very excited to be here as always. We're going to start the show off today with our NFL Scouting Combine segment with Izzy and Jose. We're going to be talking about our very own IUP Ethan Cooper football star, the GOAT, who's heading to the 2017 NFL Combine. And then we're going to pretend that we're general managers of the Cleveland Browns. We're going to talk about guys we want, guys we don't want, all that good stuff. Then we're going to jump into the NBA with Jared and Darius. And we're going to talk about the NBA trade deadline. We're going to talk about the New York Knicks. And we're going to talk about the Spurs and the Rockets and just teams that have been doing really well and teams that haven't been doing so great. Then we're going to jump into college basketball. It's almost March, so that means March Madness Tournament, the best time of the year. Darnell and Ty will be joining us for that segment. And then we're going to hop into IUP basketball, where Sean Fritz and Jared Brown will be talking. Our very own IUP athletic basketball team, where they're actually hopping into the playoff time, so it's very exciting. We're super excited to talk about IUP basketball. Our very own Jacobo Diaz and Dante Lombardi are doing great for our team so far, so stay tuned for that segment. And then we're going to close the show today with some hockey, NHL, with Andrew and Nick, and we're going to talk about the Stadium Series that happened last weekend with the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers at Heinz Field this Saturday, as I said before. And we're also going to talk about the trade deadline that's wrapping up this Wednesday. So stay tuned, have a great weekend, and enjoy the show. This is The Big Hit.
Hi. Before we get started, this past Saturday, the wrestling world lost one of its best far too early. Nick Roberts passed away at his home at the University of Pittsburgh in Johnstown Saturday night. I had the privilege of knowing Nick, and I wrestled and went to school with him since I was in elementary school. I got to watch his career flourish. Nick was a great guy. He was a 4-year letterman in high school. He had a record of 146-10, 4-time District 5 champion, 3-time regional champion, and 3-time PIAA state champion. He holds the record for falls for the North Star High School. Nick was also a 2-time junior world team champion who placed 5th in the world. He's a 4-time Fargo champion and 2010 A6 first team All-American. After high school, Nick went to Ohio State, where he redshirted his freshman year, but he had a 22-5 record in open tournaments, including a pair of runner-up finishes. During his redshirt freshman year, he took a spot on Ohio State's starting lineup at 125 pounds and earned a spot in Division I National Tournament. He placed 6th at the Big Ten Tournament and tied for 3rd on the team with 28 victories. After Ohio State, Nick transferred to the University of Pittsburgh Johnstown to be closer to his friends and family. At UPJ, After Ohio State, Nick transferred to the University of Pittsburgh Johnstown to be closer to his friends and family. At UPJ, he won a Division II national championship in 2016 at 133 pounds. A knee injury cut his season short and ended his career early in the 2016-17 season. Nick Roberts was a great wrestler, teammate, coach, friend, and role model. I will never understand how he could strike so much fear into an opponent with only a stare and could be the gentlest and most humblest person off the mat. I will never forget the last conversation we had only a week ago. And I will never forget the heart behind the man, the true heart of a champion. It was a privilege to know you, my friend. Fly high, Nick. And remember, heroes get remembered, but legends never die. Thank you. And I'll send this off to the NFL Scouting Combine.
And welcome into The Big Hit. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to our NHL analyst, Nick Stahl, for letting us know about the unfortunate sad news. You're very brave for coming on the show and talking with us. And we appreciate you more than you know. And we are so sorry for your loss. The Big Hit crew is always here for you, my dear. Anyways, gentlemen, we're here. We're talking about NHL Scouting Combine. I'm here with Izzy Mohammed and Jose Villeneuve. How are you guys today?
I could be better.
Good, we could be better. Izzy has a little bit of no voice, but he's here and he's staying strong, so we're happy you're here, Iz. All right, let's get started. All right, we're pretending that we're the general manager of the Cleveland Browns. Probably not a good place to be, but it's all good. And our team's in a dire need, of course, because we're the Cleveland Browns. And what we really are looking for is a franchise quarterback, okay? So this draft doesn't have to be anything serious. We don't have to jump into a Jameis Winston or an Andrew Luck. Oh, but we can go down far as to, maybe a Johnny Manziel or Blake Bortles. So with that in mind, knowing that you have the 1st and 13th overall pick, do you take a quarterback first? Or are we waiting to the 13th pick or so on? Jose, start us off.
Listen, Myles Garrett is a once-in-a-generation talent. I think he'll be better than Joey Bosa and Jadeveon Clowney. So I think there's no way you pass him up at number 1, especially as you mentioned that there are no quarterbacks solid at number 1. There are a bunch of good solid quarterbacks that you could possibly find in round 2. I think Trubisky will be off the board. So if I'm the GM right now, I go Myles Garrett at 1. I pick, if Trubisky's there at 13, I definitely pick him, but I don't think he will be. So I think Dalvin Cook would be a great running back option for them, or a wide receiver. I don't think Mike Williams would be there, but also John Ross could be a good option. And then in the second round, if a Deshaun Watson or a Patrick Mahomes is there, you pick them in the second round, just because I think you want to get value for your pick, not too flashy.
Yeah, like you said, Myles Garrett is a once-in-a-lifetime player, but when you think about it, they can go two ways. They can trade back like 1 or 2 picks because that people want to trade up to get Myles Garrett, and then you can still get your franchise guy and pick somebody at 13. But I don't think you could pass on Myles Garrett, so I think you take him, and then at 13 you can have a guy like DeShone Kizer there. He's a very capable quarterback. I feel like if whatever way they go, they cannot let Myles Garrett out because he doesn't seem like he's going to be a bust. He's like the safest pick in the draft. He's been a 5-star since high school, and now he's been producing tremendously for 3 years. And now at this point, you have to take him because if you don't, you're going to look dumb when the season starts.
Yeah, he was a man among children playing football.
Well, let's hope that the Browns have some help from you guys. They should be watching the show right now. Maybe they'll get some. They should hire you guys for finding a franchise quarterback because they need it. But let's talk about some other players that surprisingly struggled at the Combine, which were Dak Prescott, Michael Thomas, and Jordan Howard. But look at them now. They're voted onto the all-rookie team. But between those guys and anybody else, who's a player that may struggle but shouldn't be overlooked because of their poor numbers in the Combine?
I think Deshaun Watson might struggle just because he doesn't have the weight and the speed that everyone thought he does. But you can't overlook what he's done in college. He put up He put up so many great numbers against Alabama, and you can't really rely on one combine. I think people train for the combine so hard that it kind of throws their real numbers off and their production off, that it kind of like you fall for it. Like Trent Richardson was a good example. He had a great combine but a terrible career. Johnny Manziel ran well, and the Cleveland Browns fell in love with him. So I think you have to be more careful about the tape, trust your gut, than the actual combine, because the combine very inflates numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with me, I'm going to have to go with Zach Banner from USC. He's a tackle. He's 6'9", 360, and a guy at that size, he's not going to move that fast. So, absolutely. And when doing these little drills, trying to get past edge rushers, it's just not going to work. But when you look at his game film, he's a great player. You can see that he has great talent, tremendous talent. But at the Combine, he might get exposed a little bit just because of how tall he is, how big he is. Mm-hmm. Like, these smaller guys might get past him.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
Yeah, when it comes to the NFL Combine, you can only try your best. And unfortunately, you're going to do the best you can. And if that's the case, that's the case. But it could freak people out. It would freak me out.
Trust the tape.
It's a big, trust the process too, right?
And you still got pro days to do too. So
absolutely.
If you mess up at the Combine, you still got another chance.
That's right. There's always another chance. But Jadeveon Clowney, Joey Bosa, and Calvin Megatron Johnson are all known for the outstanding combination of size and speed and agility and strength. And we call them the freak athletes because they're just so crazy amazing. But who do you believe is the freakiest athlete in the 2017 Combine?
I'm in love with Mike Williams. My team personally doesn't need a wide receiver, but if I was a GM of a team that needed a wide receiver, Mike Williams would be my dream pick, just because he's 6'3", 6'4". We won't know his real measurement until the actual combine. He's got great speed, should run around a 4.5. He won't run in the 4.3s like Calvin. I don't think he's, as crazy as Calvin, but he's definitely a freak. I think he's very strong, and he's got a crazy vertical for someone that tall. He could play in the NBA if he really wanted to. And when you have a wide receiver that can run, catch, and bench press as much as Mike Williams, I think you can't pass him up.
For my pick, definitely it had to be Leonard Fournette, just because coming out of high school, this man just looked like a man among boys. Watching his high school tape, you can see what the man's done. He looked like a cheetah running past all these gazelles. It was like the guy is tremendously talented. He's over 6 foot, 200-something pounds. This man, he keeps up with the best of them. He outruns corners and safeties. This guy is the next one-in-a-generation type running back. I mean, you got good guys like Dalvin Cook, but Leonard Fournette, he is that guy that's going to be your franchise player that's going to take you to that next level. He's had some injuries that he's battling, but at the end of the day, you have to look at the raw talent of this man, and at the combine, he's going to surprise a lot of people.
I believe it.
Yeah, those are two good guys you mentioned. Let's talk about the scouting combine in general. What are your thoughts about it? How well or bad does it measure up to how good players can be over the course of their careers? And keep in mind, too, do you believe that the numbers do a better job of hiding, their hidden talent than the game film itself?
Personally, for scouting geeks like myself, I read mock drafts when the season's going on just because I'm that nerdy and I like to see what teams need what. But besides that, I think the scouting combine, like I said earlier, overshadows who really is good on tape and who just has good numbers. You really got, like I said earlier, you really have to trust the tape. Teddy Bridgewater was a great example of someone that didn't have the best numbers, best workout, but his tape was amazing. He was a very, very good quarterback and he could handle the system. Unfortunately, he's not playing right now, that we can't show you how good he is. But the scouting combine, I feel, has turned into something more for television and for ratings and just for hype. Like, scouting combine, you only watch to go see the Leonard Fournettes and the guys you've known since they were in high school. But I feel like that's just the world we live in.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that you have to look at the film just because you can't go off of a one-time performance because you see what these guys produce day in, day out throughout the season, going against tougher opponents. And these guys, they're just practicing on air. They're not really, they have certain one-on-ones sometimes, but really they're just practicing on air a lot of the time for this NFL Combine. And you got to go back and look at the film and see exactly like what they are doing in and off the field because these guys, they don't play all year just to go through this one thing and then have the combine be the decider whether or not they get to live their dream. Like they work hard enough for it. Give them a chance. Look at the film because that's what really matters.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you guys have heard this, and if you haven't, then this is awesome news for everyone watching. But our very own Ethan Cooper on our REP football team is actually at the Combine right now. He left today. The Combine is from the 28th to March 3rd. He played he played tackle for us at a D2 level, but he projects to play guard at the next level. So Ethan Cooper, where is he going to go? Who might pick him up? What are some teams that you have in mind for him?
Well, last year there was actually a Division III player who got selected in the second round to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Mm-hmm. And contrary to our last question, for players who don't have as good as tape, D2, you don't play the best players. Someone like Coop should have a great bench press or a great 40 and press someone just to get his stock up. I believe Coop is very fast for his position. I think that's something that's getting overlooked. And if he runs a great 40, then I feel like he'll jump from a day 3 prospect to a day 2, and even if we're lucky, he can be a second round. But a team that I would like to see him on, I know you're gonna love this. I could see him on the Packers. I know the Packers love to draft, offensive linemen that aren't, as well known. But besides the Packers, I would assume the Seahawks. Seahawks could really use some offensive talent. offensive line talent.
What do you think? You going with the Packers too?
Honestly, I can see him going to the Packers just because they definitely need some help at the guard spot. But he can go to a team like the Eagles or the Buccaneers, who definitely could use a little help. I think when a team actually sees what he does at the combine, like that's going to help him a lot just because he comes from a smaller school.
Absolutely.
If he was coming from a bigger school, it helps so much. The fact that a lot of teams have scouts at practices, and even IUP gets scouts at practice sometimes. So he's clearly has suitors waiting until he's eligible. So you just have to wait and see. But I think that Eagles could definitely use him. There's plenty of suitors that could definitely use him and need him for the future.
That's a position they rotate so fast. He can really do anything.
And you got to know a lot to play that.
Absolutely. Good luck to him.
Well, Coop, we're rooting for you. We wish you the best of luck at the NFL 2017 Combine. Wish you the best of luck, like I said, and we hope you get picked by the Packers soon enough. Wouldn't that be awesome? All right, stay tuned for Jose and Izzy. That was our NFL Scouting Combine segment. Stay tuned. NBA is next. We're here talking some hoops with Jarrett Johnson and Darius Sluddy. How are you guys today?
Good, how are you?
You're good, Darius?
Yes.
He's good.
I'm doing great.
Darius hasn't been on for a while, so we got to get him back into the groove here on the Big Hit. All right, NBA time. The biggest move of the NBA trade deadline was DeMarcus Cousins getting dealt to New Orleans for a few players and some draft picks. The Pelicans are 0-3 since acquiring Cousins. Are Anthony Davis and Cousins a bad fit together, or do they fall together? What do you think?
I say yes, they are good together, but do I think they're going to be successful? No. I think when you're sitting with your 4 and your 5, with like coming easily your most points in the game, Davis is leading 3 out of 5 major stat totals. I mean, they have no one besides like a Drew Holiday that's really going to come up and score. So I say no. I don't think it's going to end too well.
I think it's going to take some time for them to learn how to play with each other. I think if they add more to the backcourt, more guards,
exactly,
more people who could score, more people who could make plays, I think it will work.
So there's been a lot of drama with the New York Knicks lately, if you guys haven't heard. Drama's continuing with mediocre season so far, with veteran point guard Brandon Jennings being waived, and rumors of veteran Derrick Rose swirling just before the deadline time, and now possibly being waived. Should the Knicks have started out their season rebuilding process by trading Carmelo Anthony, or should they see how the season should play out for them?
I think at this point, I think Melo's got to go. I mean, there's too many problems in the front office. There's too many problems on the court. You have players actually calling him out, saying he's the reason they're losing all these games. I mean, he's 32 years old. If he wants to go out on top, I think he's got to either decide to move or they've got to move him, because it's not working in New York right now.
I don't think they should have traded Carmelo, and I say that because I feel like they got a nice team. They just need to get it together in the locker room. I know Phil Jackson made some comments about Carmelo, but Carmelo's not worried about that. Carmelo just want to play basketball and win. And I feel like if they was to get it together and start playing like Knicks basketball, start sharing the ball, and they could actually win some games, maybe during the offseason they probably could add players with Carmelo or add another point guard, because I do think they should trade Derrick Rose, but that's the only player I think they should trade. So I think they should just finish the season out and go from there.
I mean, I definitely think they should finish the season out too, but if Anthony wants to play basketball so bad, why does he keep opening his mouth? You know?
Yeah, that's understandable.
Not worth the drama?
It's not worth the drama at all. I mean, as a GM, it sounds like he want to get traded, so
yeah,
they might possibly make that move. Yeah.
All right, well, the Spurs and the Rockets have moved into the NBA's top 3 in the power rankings. Do you think, Jarrett, that either of these teams have the ability to knock off the Warriors in the Western Conference Series, or are the Warriors just that good?
Actually, I would say they both have the ability to, absolutely, but I'd probably say Spurs more so. Still sitting with that veteran line. I mean, you have Kawhi, Marcus Gasol, and they're only like 4.5 games back. That's a very capable team of knocking the Warriors off, especially with Curry shooting like he did last night, 0 for 11 from 3 or whatever. So I think absolutely yes.
I think the Spurs have a better chance of knocking the Warriors off just because of their experience with their coach Pop and Kawhi Leonard. I like the Rockets and I like that they added Lou Williams, but I just don't think that would be enough to knock the Warriors off. Just for the simple fact that because they added Kevin Durant, and that's just going to make it even harder. So
yeah, I do think that if any team has a chance, it would be the Spurs. I know they're only, a couple games behind.
About 4.5.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good, not a huge gap between the two of them. So I definitely think that there's a chance. But Golden State is Golden State, and they always pull through in the end. So,
absolutely.
We never know what's going to happen there in the West. But let's jump over to the East. The Boston Celtics are only 3 games behind the Cleveland Cavaliers for the #1 seed in the East, where Cleveland stands. With just over 20 games remaining, do you think the Celtics will overtake LeBron and the Cavs for the top spot in the East, heading into the playoffs?
I'm going to say no. I think the Celtics need to worry about staying at #2 right now, especially after a big loss to the Hawks last night, who are sitting at #4. But at the same time, they did just get their second leading scorer back in Avery Bradley, who has been hurt for a while. It's going to take some of the coat riding off Isaiah Thomas right now because he's clearly the only one scoring in big numbers. So I think they need to worry about staying at #2 and just trying to get that good seed.
I feel like the Celtics, no. I don't think they have enough pieces, and Isaiah, he's just too short. They already played twice this season, and they played in Boston, and the Cavaliers won both the games. So plus the additions of Cal Korver and now Darren Williams, who they just got, yesterday or today. They don't got enough playmakers, or they just don't have enough to beat the Cavs. So
is there anyone in that division that could take over the Cavs, or are they pretty much set?
If so, my opinion, I'd either say Celtics or Raptors. But Raptors just lost Lowry, so probably just the Celtics, if there's a hope sitting there, from my opinion.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we might see, a Cavs, Golden State in the championship game again. It's possible. I think everyone's rooting for it, so we're just going to have to see what happens. All right, gentlemen, thank you for being here. For Jarrett and Darius, that was our NBA segment. We're going to jump over to some college basketball. Stay tuned.
I'm IUP basketball player Brandon Norfleet. And this is the Big Hit.
It's college basketball time. I'm here with Ty Calloway and Darnell Turner. We're talking college basketball. All right, gentlemen, pleasure to have you here. It's almost March, and 2 teams have already clinched their regular season conference titles, North Carolina and Kansas. The Big 12 and the ACC have not been competitive at the top, but there are several teams in top 7 for ACC and for the Big 12. What are your assessments of each conference so far? How are you feeling about this?
Well, I really don't have too much nitpicking about the Big 12. I've always respected them as a conference, and they've always been they've never had as a unit an entirely bad year. But as far as the ACC goes, I do have a bone to pick with them. Because once you get past Syracuse, whose record is 9-8, it just gets pitiful. Like, you have teams like Wake, and you have Pitt, where I'm from, Pittsburgh, going 4-13. That's in the conference. That's just atrocious. Like, who does that? And I know I can't talk too much because I don't play college basketball, but I'm saying, if you're gonna beat her, then you should do your job right.
I think the ACC has been the best conference by far this year. I know a lot of teams aren't great. You're not looking at a lot of championship teams like you would maybe the Pac-12, which we're going to talk about. Kansas is looking pretty great right now, #1 overall. But I think it's easily the deepest team. I think they have a chance to break the record for the most teams sent to the tournament since I think the Big East did in 2010. They sent 11. And, regardless, they're going to send, 7 or 8 teams there. And I just think that, at the bottom, they're not championship teams, but they're solid teams. They've played, at times they've shown that they can beat better teams. And as far as the Big 12, Kansas pretty much just runs that conference. They've won that 13 straight years, but teams like West Virginia, Iowa State, they've been pretty solid this year. So, as far as the ACC and the Big 12 are concerned, I've pretty much expected, what I'm getting this year. They have pretty much the cream of the crop, as far as, being the deepest of the 2 conferences.
That's true. I agree with that. You were shaking your head a little bit, Ty. You saying no? Yes?
I didn't know if he was allowed to agree or disagree or not.
Oh yeah,
but,
come on.
I mean, like,
Speak
Let's fight.
Speak your mind.
All right, look, you used Kansas as one of your examples, but that's really not like a fair comparison because Kansas has traditionally been a good team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they traditionally are going to make it to the Sweet 16 or the Final Four. You know what I mean? That's like if I try to pull up UK or somebody like that. You know what I mean? You just can't do it. But I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying.
But you know, ACC and the Big 12, you pretty much get what you get. Kansas every year, UNC, Duke.
Yeah.
The typical.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's jump into the Pac-12. They might be considered the strongest conference at the top. 3 top 10 teams in Arizona, Oregon, and UCLA at the top spot. How do you see the rest of the season playing out for them?
For the first 2, well, actually, I see all 3 of them flopping. But I see UCLA going the furthest just when they've been winning, on average, they've been winning by double digits. So they're winning like strong. You know, like they're winning strong games. That and Lonzo Ball, who's balling out, you know what I mean, to help them. I think they're going to go far, but I don't think that they're going to make it to any championship this year.
Yeah, I talked about the ACC being the deepest. I think the Pac-12 has shown as far as at the top, you know, they have 3 teams that we could see in the Final Four. I think, I agree with you. I think UCLA has the best chance to go the farthest. Lonzo Ball has been terrific this year, my freshman of the year. He takes that offense to another level. He's been great, and he's going to make some NBA team great for years to come. But I think Oregon has a great chance as anybody as well. Dylan Brooks has been playing out of his mind, player of the year candidate. You know, we've seen him make big shots all year, big shot versus Cal, big shot versus UCLA. So, you know, I think you can't sleep on Arizona either. You know, they got a nice little team there. They're coached well. And, you know, I think come tournament time, those are 3 teams to watch out for. As far as the rest of the conference, you know, they're not as deep. You know, you don't really hear about the rest of the teams. You know, they might only get 3 in the tournament. But, you know, Cal and USC, you know, they're going to have to really fight and claw to get back in there. But I definitely see UCLA as far as the big 3 in the Pac-12. I see them going the furthest.
Let's talk about a team that has been recently undefeated until last week. Gonzaga, as mentioned, suffered their first loss of the 2017 season. They're the last undefeated team to fall. Did they get too exposed? Excuse me, or was there just an unbettable loss that they had to go through to keep going on for the rest of the season?
No, yeah, I don't think they got exposed. They've always been like a good team year in and year. Or no, I'm not gonna say good. They've always been like a solid team year in and year out. And they've been doing their thing this year. And honestly, after, 2 years ago when Kentucky was undefeated and they went to the semifinals with Wisconsin and then they lost, you know what I mean, on some crap. After that, I think everybody gets one. You know what I mean? Like everybody gets one loss, no matter how good you're doing in the season. As long as it doesn't come at the end of the season when it matters most, yeah, I think you'll be fine. I think Gonzaga is going to do well. Yeah,
like you said, as long as it doesn't come at the crucial parts of the season. And obviously, you know, no loss is good. You know, there's no moral victories, but, you know, nobody's perfect. That it shows you why it's so hard to have a perfect season because, you know, you're playing all of these games and it's a long season. You're going to have games where you're not playing at your absolute best. And to start out 29-0 was a great accomplishment, you know, regardless of, you know, not being able to have the undefeated season they're having. I don't think it really exposes them. You know, this is definitely going to test their character to see, you know, if they're going to let this loss, you know, impact them going into the tournament or if it's going to make them even stronger. They've been blowing out a lot of teams lately, and that was their, you know, their first close game in a while. And going into March Madness, you're guaranteed to have a close game somewhere down the road. So I think this was a pretty good game if you're the coach of Gonzaga to, you know, look at, you know, their first close game going into March Madness. They had some turnovers down the stretch in that close game. And, you know, those are things that you can clean up before it's, you know, it comes March Madness time and tournament time where things like that, you know, you lose one game, you're done.
Yeah, I think that it's good for a team to lose 1 or 2 games, you know, because going, you know, 29-0, that's hard. Yeah. I mean, that's respectable by all means, but that's hard. And I feel like taking an L was needed for them. So as long as they can bounce back from that, that's really all that matters. I'm quoting Big Sean here like crazy right now.
I found you.
All right, well, the rise of talented freshmen have been well documented in our time. There's a couple guys that we're going to mention here that have been doing really well, but this 2016 class has been arguably the deepest. How do guys like Josh Jackson, Dennis Smith, and Lonzo Ball stack up to this freshman phenomenon of the past?
Well, in my opinion, what's his name? Josh Jackson. I see him maybe taking the Player of the Year from Lonzo Ball if he continues to have the streak of games that he's been having for the past 3 weeks. He's been having a good season, like he's been solid season, but these past 3 weeks he's been stepping his game up each and every game, each and every week. And if he has another big game, then I think he's the only one that might be able to snatch from Lonzo Ball.
Yeah, this freshman class has been outstanding. It's definitely lived up to the hype that we've seen, and we've seen a lot of freshman classes come in and not live up to, big hype. And I just think a lot of guys are playing beautiful. Also, someone that's not going to be in the tournament but has played great, Markel Fultz. Dennis Smith has a chance to make the tournament on NC State. He's been having a pretty good season. And like you just said about Josh Jackson, he's been taking his game to another level. So these freshmen, they're looking real good. One of my favorite freshman classes was the year, I think Jalil Okafor, I think Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell. I think that was a really good freshman
15,
class.
Right? 14?
15, you're right. 2014 had Embiid, Wiggins, Jabari Parker. That was a pretty good one too. But this class has been really good this year.
Well, as I said before earlier, tomorrow is March 1st. So that means March Madness time is approaching really soon.
It's almost that time.
It's almost that time, best time of the year in college basketball. But March Madness brings in a lot of money and entertainment for universities and employers. Do you think but with that said, do you think that the players are being treated unfairly, and do they deserve money to be playing in this March Madness tournament? Why or why not? Do you think that?
They should absolutely be getting paid.
Oh, he said absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think they need any NBA or NFL type money, but they should get some kind of compensation for the work that they're doing. They're the ones who's putting in the 3-4 practices a day and then classes on top of that. They're the ones who are bringing in the fans by doing their thing on the court. They should get something, because a lot of them, just the athletes that I talk to, again, I don't play, but they still struggle to eat. You know what I mean? Because they can't have jobs. They have to play and go to school. That's all they have time for. You know what I mean? So they should definitely get some kind of compensation for what they do, school.
Yeah, I agree. These student athletes, it's just been way too long. They definitely should start getting some type of compensation. Like you said, a lot of student athletes, they come into college, to play sports, and that's their only way out. They're doing this to, and that's why a lot of young players are going one and done, because they've got to get to that money, they've got to chase that check, because the NCAA isn't paying them, and they're not getting money any other way. You can't sell anything, you can't sign anything. You're not allowed to go sign, be endorsements. So they've got to. Players are thinking, coming into college thinking, well, I'm only going to be here 1 year. I've got to, play this year out and go make some money. I think if NCAA decided to, compensate these players, somehow, some way, that it might even, have the players stay a few more years, because they won't be in such a rush to go to the league and make those big dollars.
I mean, think about how big March Madness is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's huge.
They make more than enough money to be able to pay these athletes.
But also think about that too. That's probably the only time they make that much money, though. I mean, how much, what I mean? I know a lot of people love college basketball. When you compare that to how it's watched regularly, just in regular season, versus March Madness, it's like light day. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that's why I say a stipend.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. I feel like they should get a little bit of compensation for sure. They deserve that. They work hard.
At least for March Madness.
Yeah, no one's calling for them to get $100 million contracts
absolutely
like
not.
But something where they can be able to go out and spend money, have food for themselves.
Yeah,
definitely.
Talking about money in college athletes, that's a whole other discussion that would take us, hours to talk about, because people are talking about that every day, thinking about if college athletes should get paid or not. But thank you guys for being here, for tying Darnell. That was our college basketball segment. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to hop over to some hometown basketball with our IUP basketball men's and women's team. Stay tuned.
3, 2, 1, action. Oh, gosh.
IUP men's and women's basketball. It's postseason time, guys. This is the best time of the year. We're doing some big things up here in IUP basketball. All right, let's start with the men's. Our IUP men's basketball team is heading into the postseason, as mentioned before, riding a 7-game winning streak. We're playing Mercyhurst this Wednesday at 7:30. What does IUP need to do to keep it rolling? They've been doing so well. They've been winning by at least 15 to 20 points. What needs to keep happening for them, Jared?
For me, a big part of IUP's success is the ability for everybody to score points. If you look from February 1st to February 22nd, IUP had a 6-game winning streak within their 7-game winning streak. But during those 6 games, IUP had 4 or more players each of those games record double digits or more. So, and Coach Joe Lombardi completely agrees. He's been quoted saying that he thinks there's multiple players on his team that can blow up the scoreboard every night. So if you have people like Glover, Spain, Dante Lombardi, Cottrell, Diaz, Danielak, who can all find a way to get the ball in the hoop and are very good at doing it, then you have a very solid team through and through. So if they just keep up what they're doing, move the ball around, keep playing fundamental basketball, they're going to have a very successful PSAC tournament.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head, Jared. I think, the best thing about this team, and how I think one of the biggest reasons why they've been able to win 17 straight games is because of their balanced scoring attack. I had a chance to talk to Devin Cottrell, one of the seniors on the team this year. I had a chance to talk to him a couple weeks ago, and I asked him, what's the biggest key to your success, and he completely agrees. As you just touched on, and what I'm talking about now, the way that they run their offense and they facilitate the ball and spread the floor. I think it's something that is unmatched in the PSAC, and I think that's a reason that we've been able to see them be so successful this season. They just every night it seems that they've got a handful of guys who are in double-digit scoring figures, and not only that, but they facilitate the ball well too. Dante Lombardi from the point guard position, has the ability to knock down the 3-ball, the long-range ball, and has the ability to score his points and get his touches and his looks. But at the same time, he facilitates the ball. Glover does the same. Brandon Spain off the bench, and that's another thing that you have to mention when you talk about this IUP team. It's not just their 5 starters that have the ability to contribute offensively. It's the guys coming off the bench. Blake Danielak is a perfect example. He's a great spark off the bench. He's an upperclassman who can come out and light it up. And if he gets hot, look out, because not only are they scoring with their starting 5, but they've got a great amount of viable options off the bench too, whether it's Danielak or Spain or the freshman Malik Miller. They've got a lot of really good options up and down this lineup and this roster on this team. So I think that's been their biggest key to their success, and something that if they can continue to do, then they're going to keep it rolling through this PSAC tournament. Yeah,
you gentlemen definitely nailed it. I mean, having the fact that they have so many key players is so key for them. You have a lot of those teams where there's 1 or 2 guys where you count on the most. Last season, the season before, Brandon Norfleet, Driz, Devontae Chance, those are the big guys, on the IUP basketball team. But this year, you guys nailed it. There's so many guys we can roll off our tongues that we know are going to produce and perform as well as they have in the entire season. So I'm happy for them. They've been doing so well, and we can only hope for the best for them in the postseason. But still talking about them, the men's team has had a committee approach this season, as we just talked about, with the balancing scoring with their biggest weapon. Leading the charge has been sophomore forward Jacobo Diaz. Huge key player for this IUP basketball team. But who's another player that comes to mind the Crimson Hawks should be counting on besides Diaz? So if something happened to him, let's just hope not. Who are we counting on next?
Well, offensively, Jacobo is the guy. He is the leading scorer, but I don't think he's any more important on offense than any of the other 5 or 6 players we just mentioned. But that being said, I do think senior Devin Cottrell is the guy that the Hawks are going to have to turn to during the PSAC tournament. 1, senior leadership. It's every coach in college sports talks about and how important it is. 2, we're going to need defense to win, and Devin Cottrell is a madman on defense. He has the all-time block record at IUP, and he manages to rebound for about 10 rebounds a game, both offensive and defensively. And also, he averages about 10 points a game as well. So I think he's going to have to be our guy to step up, but also I think it's going to be a problem for the Crimson Hawks that they really don't have a guy to step up. Because people can't forget, Shippensburg and Kutztown are still in the PSAC, and those were both 1-point games. So we may come down to a last shot game, and I honestly don't know who I would give the ball to during that, but I know Cottrell, if you give them the ball a lot, get him his shots, he usually gives you 15 to 17 a night if he gets his shots up, and he's looking very good this season, so I'm expecting a big tournament out of him.
Yeah, I agree with you on most of the things you talked about, but not all. For me, I love Jacobo Diaz. I think he's a straw that stirs the drink offensively for IUP. I think if there's a guy I want taking the shot, the last second shot, I think it's got to be Jacobo Diaz. I know he's young, and I know he's still got room to grow, but I think he's probably the best and most consistent offensive player on this IUP team. Something I do like about Devin Cottrell, I think Devin Cottrell's a great option. He's obviously, we know about him solid. We know about how solid he is defensively. He's the anchor of the IUP defense and has been throughout his time here at IUP. And also, he's another guy who I wouldn't mind letting take the last shot, down the stretch when you need a bucket. Just that senior leadership, the role he's taken on this year. Him and Brandon Spain are the only two seniors on this team, and the experience and the leadership is unmatched as far as Cottrell is concerned. So I think he's a great option for me. I'm going to say Anthony Glover. I think this kid has got a high ceiling offensively, and we haven't really seen it consistently all season. He's had some really big games, and then he's had some really not so big games where he's kind of been unnoticed. And at the same time, it kind of goes as part of this balanced scoring attack. He doesn't have to be a stud every night and put up great numbers offensively. I think it's more about just his style of play and what he brings to the floor rather than the statistics aspect. But I think Glover is a really good option offensively. I think if they can count on him and he can put up some consistent offensive numbers, I think that it's going to bode well for the Crimson Hawks. Lombardi's another one that, like I said, if he continues to facilitate and can knock down shots, especially from long range, their IUP will be in a pretty good position.
I would love to see an Anthony Glover last-minute shot, too.
Yeah, that was I going to say.
He brings one thing that the rest of the team doesn't bring, and that's a little bit of finesse.
Yeah.
If you watch IUP out there, they look a lot like the Spurs, a very boring but very fundamentally sounding team. Anthony, he gets out there and starts making some crazy shots and breaking some ankles.
Bit, yeah.
So, I mean, if we could see a last-minute Anthony Glover shot, I would love it.
Yeah, I was going to say Anthony Glover, too. He's been kind of a hidden treasure. Yeah. For our team, he comes out when he's needed. He kind of stays behind, lets the other guys take control. But I would love to see Glove take the lead against Mercyhurst this Wednesday. I think that could be possible with the help of Dante Lombardi. Lombardi leads in assists in the PSAC with the number of assists that he has. I don't know, but they're very high. Lombardi to Kobo, Lombardi to Glover. I think we can get the job done.
Another kid I really like is I like Danielak coming off the bench.
Too.
I think he provides a spark. I think he can knock down some shots. And that's exactly what you're looking for from a guy who comes off the bench and who has the ability to score like he can. Obviously, he doesn't have the minutes or the game started to come out and consistently put up 20 to 25 a night. He's just not going to do that. Mm-hmm. But he can come out and give you between 10 to 15 to maybe even a max of 20 a night coming off the bench because he gets hot. That's something that.
And he could score in all different ways. From beyond the arc, he could take it under the hoop, he could get it off the boards. He's a very athletic, very big, and a very good shooter.
Yep.
Yeah. And I also like Malik Miller a lot. He's been a great key for us, too, coming off the bench as well. Him and Danielak. And I also like Jesse Huff. He's been good for us, too. He hasn't played much, but when he does come on the court, he does some work. All right, let's jump over to the women's side of things. The women are doing really well. They also play this Wednesday at 5:30 against Mercyhurst. They bounced back from a rocky sketch at the midpoint of the season. They rattled off 8 out of the last 9 games. They lost, unfortunately, this past Saturday to Cal for the #1 seed in the PSAC West Conference. But now our women's team is sitting at #2. Our men's team is sitting at #1 in the seed. But the women are still doing really great. Key players for them. But talking about their key players, who should the Crimson Hawks be counting on as they prepare for this matchup on Wednesday against Mercyhurst?
I mean, for me, it's Brittany Robinson. She averages 10 points a game with a total of 125 rebounds this season.
That's the girl.
Which is ridiculous for the girls' team. I don't even think there's a member of the men's team. I don't think Cottrell's even close to that. I don't think there's one member on the men's team close to that. But going forward, if the Crimson Hawks want to win, a big portion of their success is coming from just putting Brittany under the hoop and let her get as many rebounds as she can. She is a machine under there. I think she's using Stickum or something. The refs might need to check out her hands, but she catches almost everything that comes off the glass and gets it back to the Hawks.
Yeah, I think Brittany Robinson obviously is a great choice, but for me it's kind of similar to the men. I think when our women's team is thriving, I think it's when they have a kind of a committee approach, when they have the ability to facilitate the ball and get everybody touches. I think is when they're most dynamic. Obviously, everybody does something a little bit, better than most. Than everybody has their own thing that they do extremely well. For Brittany Robinson, it's rebounding. But you have a variety of different players, whether it's Carolyn Appleby, whether it's Lauren Wolosik, whether it's Megan Smith. The list goes on. They have a lot of really good pieces within like their starting five that I think can contribute and kind of take over any type of game. So I think if they can do it similar to the men and kind of have a committee approach, I think that's when they're most effective. I think the thing that's lacking for them is, the consistency coming off the bench, where the men, we've talked about a few players, just don't really see that on the women's team as much.
See, I think I'm going to disagree with you there, Sean, because I think that our bench is decent. It's almost as good as our men's. Our starting five is Megan Smith, Brittany Robinson, Carolyn Appleby, Lauren Wolosik.
Those are the top players on the team.
The top players on the team,
and they're going to see those top minutes
for sure.
as well.
For sure. But when we come off the bench, we've seen Mara Deanna, our freshman, had her career high of 18 points a couple of games ago. I think it was against East Stroudsburg. Anna Holland's a good pick. Kendall Hunter. There's a lot of girls on that team who can perform if Megan Smith needs a break, if Carolyn Appleby needs a break. But you guys also said a lot of good things too. I think that they have they have diversity on that team too, which helps a lot. And I really like Coach McConnell a lot too. He's a great coach, very humble man. He keeps that team rolling. Along with the help of those girls and how successful that they've been this season. And I really think that they have a good shot of making it far. A little bit, like we said, a little bit of rocky start, but they've been pulling through. Most definitely. So as much as I mentioned before, they did lose to Cal. They're now in the 2nd seed. If they do run into Cal again, keep in mind they lost, I believe, 80-64 this past Saturday. They had the lead in the first half.
Second loss to Cal this year.
Second loss to Cal this year, correct. They had the lead in the first half. It was like 45-35. They had a 10-point lead, and then something just happened. I'm not sure what the problem was, but Cal just kind of took over and won that game. So if they meet Cal again, what do the Crimson Hawks need to do to win?
Well, first off, it's ball protection.
Right.
And every sport, turnovers are pretty much live or die by the turnovers. But against California, IUP turned over the ball 15 times, allowing California to steal it 11 times. But for me, the most important factor for me is that IUP forces California to shoot the three-pointer. Last game, California went 0-4. So if you're only shooting 4 threes, there's a reason you're not trying it.
Right.
Those 4 threes were probably forced either by a bad look or a shot clock violation. So IUP needs to really push the three-pointer from Cal. And also, I think IUP, they may look like the underdogs on paper, but if you look in all professional and college sports, how many times have you seen a good team lose 3 times to the same team in one season?
Yeah.
Very far and few in between.
Yeah.
Last I could think of is Steelers beating the Ravens in the divisional round for the 3rd time. That is the last time I could think of it. So I do think IUP might be, sneaking up on Cal pretty quietly and can pull a big-time upset, and then we could celebrate twice in Indiana.
That's right.
Yeah, I think, in all honesty, Cal's just a good basketball team. Cal's a very good team. IUP is also a very good team, but I think Cal, there's a reason they're the #1 seed. There's a reason that their record is what it is. There's a reason that they're able to win the game the other day by 16 points. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a reason that Cal is the #1 seed, pretty much. IUP, it's not to be super critical of IUP. I think IUP is a really good team, but I think something that jumps out at me is just the ability to is Cal's ability to out-rebound the Crimson Hawks. If IUP is going to come up with a big win against Cal in the PSAC tournament, they're going to have to get a performance and production from all 5 players on the court, not just Brittany Robinson grabbing down boards. I think obviously the turnovers are huge. I completely agree with that, but the ability to rebound the basketball and limit second chance points and limit opportunities in the paint for Cal, I think is going to be big for IUP. They're going to have to do all that if they want to have a chance to knock off Cal.
Well, the women have to beat Mercyhurst first before we even start thinking about Cal, but I feel like they will. And when we do get to Cal, that's going to be a game worth talking about because I do see an upset there. You're right, Jared. How many times do a team plays, 2 out of 3? I feel like they're going to definitely beat them. But Like I said, men's, women's basketball this Wednesday, I believe. What's tomorrow? March 1st already. My goodness. 5:30, 7:30 at the Kovalchik Center. Please be there. You don't want to miss it. This is the best time of the year for basketball season. PSAC tournaments against Mercyhurst. That's my little pitch from IUP Athletics. All right, that was our IUP basketball segment for Jerry Brown and Sean Fritz. Stay tuned. NHL is next.
Let's go Hawks.
If you want to find love nowadays, you don't have to be a bachelor or a bachelorette. Holy sh**. If you want to find love nowadays, you don't have to be a bachelor or a bachelorette. You just need to be a contestant on the show Personally, I'm hurting for the kids of the future that listen to the Hollaback Girl and can't figure out what ABA, obviously that proves he's Muslim. So if his beard implies that Islam, then I guess the people have been claiming that Obama is a Muslim, moved on to Ryan, and the proof is in the pudding. I'm sorry.
All right, we're going to wrap this episode up with our last segment with our NHL talk. I'm here with our two NHL analysts, Andrew Roth and Nick Stahl. All right, gentlemen, let's get to it. With the trade deadline wrapping up on Wednesday, what top players, if any, do you expect to be dealt?
Well, I got to say, Marc-Andre Fleury. He's protected from the expansion draft with his no movement clause, but he lost a spot to Murray last year in the postseason, and I mean, him remaining a Penguin threatens Murray to leave Pittsburgh, so he's a must-trade commodity. And Kevin Shattenkirk. He's a right-handed shot. He can play massive minutes. He's great on the power play. He's a pending unrestricted free agent, and he's even underrated defensively. He's everything a contending team should want, and the Blues are streaking since axing coach Ken Hitchcock, so they probably can't afford to lose Shattenkirk for nothing this summer.
Yeah, I'm going to have to take I agree with the Shattenkirk thing. That was a good move by the Capitals. Picking him up gives them a lot of depth, and that's what they needed to compete with the Penguins. That's what it's going to come down to be, those two teams. But I'm going to have to disagree with you on Fleury, because Rutherford, I know he likes, for some reason, he's a weirdo, and he likes keeping two goalies on his team that can play just in case for that insurance that Murray gets hurt. I think they should trade him, but like the way it is right now, at the trade deadline, there's a lot of buyers and not a lot of sellers. So like supply and demand's all messed up for Fleury. So if they were to trade him, I don't know what they'd get back for him. And I think they'd rather just keep him now and have that insurance and then trade him in the summer.
I see what you mean. I just mean like I think they should trade him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And, I think they should.
But the thing is he's asking way too much for him. And,
yeah.
I don't think he's gonna go, but I kind of want to see him go.
Yeah, I think it's the time that he passes the torch over to Murray in Pittsburgh for sure.
Yeah.
How much is he asking?
I forget exactly what it is.
He's gonna want
to.
Yeah,
sure.
he's gonna want to pick at least a star-ready NHL player, probably a prospect as well.
Oh, without a doubt.
He is in the prime of his career. So.
Oh, I agree. All right, well, let's talk about some winners and losers of this NHL trade deadline. What are some winners?
Well, I got to say the Kings getting Ben Bishop, huge win. Even at the age of 30, he ranks among NHL's elite goaltenders. Last season, he was a finalist for the Vezina Trophy at 6'7", 216 pounds. Covers a lot of the net, and with his agility and skills, I mean, he's just a great pickup for the LA Kings.
Yeah, I like that Kings trade. Gives him a little depth at the goaltender position. Because Bishop is a good goalie. He is huge. It's hard to score on a guy like that because he just covers up the whole net. Oh, yeah. But I think the biggest winner would have to be the Capitals because what they lacked last year was defensive depth. Their fifth and sixth guys on defense weren't very good, and the Penguins just skated circles around them. And then picking up Shattenkirk, they have three guys, Alzner, Niskanen, and now Shattenkirk all on the right side. They can all keep up with anyone in the East. So I think like that trade makes them the favorite now on paper.
All right, let's talk about some losers then, Andrew. What do you think?
Losers are going to have to be at this current second. I think it's going to be the Penguins because they got to make a deal, bring in somebody, some fresh legs, some different energy, change things up a little bit to compete with what the Capitals just did.
I gotta say the Minnesota Wild acquiring Martin Hansel because I mean they just gave up way too much for what Hansel is. I mean this guy, he's never scored 20 goals in a season, over 20 goals, I'm sorry, and has topped out at 41 points in a single season. And what'd they give up for him? I'm sorry, can't even see it. I think they gave up like 2 draft picks and 2 prospects or something just for him.
Yeah,
and
it
was
strong third line center with he's just a big guy. That's why teams like him. I think that's just the Wild. I don't know why they'd give that up. I think they just want to win a Stanley Cup and they're just trying to bring in whoever.
Yeah.
It's all about the Stanley Cup, boys.
Exactly.
All about
I mean,
the cup.
I could be wrong. He could help lead the Wild to Stanley Cup, but
yeah, he's always been the Coyotes aren't good, but I don't see him translating into like a 40-goal scorer or anything like that. There's no way.
All right, well, let's give some bold predictions because we love bold predictions here on the Big Hit. All right, so what team or teams do you feel is the biggest contender moving forward, pending any blockbuster moves happen just before the deadline?
Biggest contender, it's got to be the Capitals. They just look unbeatable on paper right now. And then in the offseason, they addressed their needs, got some forward depth, and now they're shoring up their defense. So I think they're the favorites on paper.
All right, he's got the Capitals. Nick?
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you on that with the Capitals, but also Toronto Maple Leafs picking up Boyle. I think that they definitely are a big contender moving forward.
Yeah, I like that for them. They got a lot of young guys right now with Matthews and Mitch Marner, and I think Brian Boyle's an experienced guy. He's been through a lot, played in a lot of playoff series. I think that can help them out a lot.
All right, so we got the Capitals and Maple Leafs. I like that. I like that a lot. All right, so the NHL obviously had its last edition of the Stadium Series this past weekend in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field, but the Penguins defeated the Philadelphia Flyers. Sorry, by a score of 4-2. Super cold night. What was it? 20 degrees.
Pretty cold.
Super cold outside. The Stadium Series is outside for those of you who don't know at Heinz Field, so nothing's indoors. We're shivering out there. But do you think the NHL is overusing the outdoor games, or do you think they should do more outdoor games throughout the season? Like, do you like the idea of a Stadium Series, or do you want to see less of it?
Me personally, I love the idea of the series, like the Stadium Series. I mean, it draws bigger crowds. People like to go to the football stadiums and watch the hockey teams play. I don't know why, they just like it. I mean, that it's just good family fun, brings in more revenue, and I think that people will keep going as long as they're having them. So why not throw in some more?
Yeah, I kind of like how they have it right now. I don't think they should necessarily add more, but keep it as it is now, because I know the players, they absolutely love it. They love playing outside. It reminds them of like little kids playing out on the ponds.
Oh, yeah.
But it's tough because they make so much money off of it, so obviously they're not going to like change it unless it starts losing money. But I think, like, me personally, I don't like watching the games because you can't see the puck. It's like hard to see the puck and follow the play.
Well, I mean, if it's making money, and when you have a prime game like the Flyers and the Penguins, you know, in Pittsburgh, you know, everyone's gonna be watching that. That's primetime television right there.
I think a really cool game for that would definitely be Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Beaver Stadium. In the middle of the stadium, right there.
Right there.
I mean,
100,000 watching a hockey game.
I mean, it's one of it's one of the biggest stadiums in college football. And
yeah, they need to get that done.
Yeah.
All right, take note, NHL. We won it at Beaver Stadium. All right, that was our NHL segment with Andrew Roth and Nick Stahl. I'm Sarah Moltz. For producers Sean Fritz and Jose Villeneuve and director Michael Martone, this is The Big Hit. Catch us next week. You don't want to miss it.